The night was colder than usual. Streetlights flickered, casting long shadows across the cracked pavement. Her footsteps echoed, quick but cautious. The smell of gasoline and damp concrete filled the air. She clutched her old leather bag tightly, heart racing with an unshakable unease. A sharp screech sliced the silence. Tires skidded. A black car swerved violently toward the sidewalk. In that instant, time slowed. She saw a man frozen in fear standing directly in its path, his eyes wide, his breath caught in his throat. Without thinking, she lunged forward. Her hand struck his chest, forcing him out of the way. The car slammed into a street pole with a deafening crash. Shards of glass rained down, glittering in the harsh yellow light. Her knees trembled, palms stinging from the impact. The man lay sprawled on the sidewalk, dazed but alive. She bent down, her own breath ragged. His face was pale, but familiar. Too familiar. Her stomach tightened. She whispered his name. The one she had seen countless times on glowing billboards. A billionaire, one of the most powerful men in the city. He stared back at her, not with gratitude, but with something else, something unreadable. His lips curled into a faint smile that did not reach his eyes. The street was silent again, too silent. And in that silence, she realized the crash had not been an accident. His shallow breaths fogged in the cold night air. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The wrecked car hissed, steam rising from its hood. No driver emerged. No cry for help. Just the eerie crackle of broken wires and the faint drip of gasoline. She looked around. The street was empty, too empty, as if the world had cleared itself to leave only the two of them behind. The billionaire slowly sat up, brushing glass from his sleeve, his eyes locked onto hers, sharp, unblinking, whispered a name that froze her blood. Her name. But she had never met him before. Her breath hitched. The ground beneath her seemed to shift, the world tilting with unease. "How do you know me?" she asked, voice trembling. He did not answer. Instead, he stood, towering, shadows slicing across his face. Behind them, the wrecked car burst into a low flame, sending waves of heat against their skin. Her instincts screamed to run, but his hand gripped, her wrist with surprising force. "You were not supposed to be here tonight," he murmured. Her throat tightened. The words struck like a blade. Every muscle in her body tensed, and in that moment, she realized saving his life had just entangled her in something far more dangerous than death. Her wrist burned under his grip. She tried to pull away, but his hold only tightened. The flames behind them grew louder, crackling like whispers in the dark. Shadows danced wildly on the walls of the buildings, as if the city itself was watching. "You were supposed to disappear years ago," he said, his voice low and steady. Her chest tightened. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. "What do you mean?" she demanded, though her voice shook. His eyes narrowed, cold and piercing. "I had men searching for you," he continued. "You were a loose thread." A mistake that should never have survived. Her skin went cold, as if the night air had turned to ice. She shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. "You have the wrong person." But deep inside, a buried memory stirred, a memory she had fought to forget. The sound of sirens long ago, the sight of flames swallowing a house, and the figure of a man watching from a black car, his face hidden by the shadows. Her knees weakened. The billionaire leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. "You know exactly who I am," he whispered, "and now you know too much." The silence that followed was suffocating. Then, behind them, footsteps echoed. Slow, deliberate. Someone else was coming. The footsteps grew louder. Each one echoed through the empty street like a countdown. Her throat tightened. Breath shallow, the billionaire finally released her wrist, his gaze shifting toward the sound. His expression did not change, but something in his posture did. He was no longer the man she had saved. He was the man who had been waiting. From the shadows, a tall figure emerged, a man in a long coat, face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. The air thickened. Even the flames behind them seemed to shrink, as though afraid. The stranger stopped just beyond the reach of the light. His voice was calm, steady, and unsettlingly familiar. "You interfered," the stranger said, eyes fixed on her. Her pulse skipped. She had heard that voice before, not in person, but in her dreams. Dreams that had haunted her since childhood. Dreams of fire. Dreams of running. Her body froze. Torn between fight and flight, the billionaire did not flinch. Instead, he stepped aside as if making room, as if he had been waiting for this meeting all along. The stranger tilted his head, his lips curling into a slow, knowing smile. "You do not remember, do you?" he whispered. Her legs trembled, because part of her did, and the truth she had buried for years was clawing its way back to the surface. Her breath caught in her chest. The fire's glow shimmered in her eyes, illuminating fragments of memory she had buried deep. The house, the flames, the screams she never understood as a child, and that voice, always in the distance, calling her name. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "I was there. I was not supposed to survive, was I?" The stranger's smile widened. "You were the secret no one planned for. The one who escaped the fire when everything else was erased." Her body trembled, but a strange strength rose within her. The billionaire stepped closer, his cold gaze fixed on her. "You saved my life tonight," he said softly. But it was not an accident. It was destiny pulling the last thread. Her fists clenched. The world around her seemed to blur. The street, the flames, even the two men before her. All that remained clear was the truth. She had been hunted, erased from memory, yet still alive. Her voice steadied. "I will not disappear again." The stranger's smile faltered for the first time. The billionaire's eyes narrowed, as though he was beginning to see her not as prey, but as something far more dangerous. The night held its breath. For the first time, the shadows did not press in on her. They recoiled, and as the fire behind them sputtered and died, she turned away from the two men, her steps slow but unbroken. Every echo of her heels down the street carried a promise. The past had found her, but now she was ready to face it. Alone. Yet no longer afraid.